Hey guys, I'm here with my friend Craig Coffin. He is the one of the pastors, a family pastor at Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa, the church that I attend. And I thought he would be a great first conversation that I'm going to be posting here on Instagram, just so we can have, I don't know, some sort of direction, good words of comfort, encouragement. So. I have a couple questions though for you, Craig, before I ask you other questions regarding what we're going through right now. So,
Okay.
For those who don't know either, we did record one late last week, and then I found out this is a hot tip for the day. You can't screen record on an iPhone and get audio at the same time. And I was telling Celeste, I was like, man, that interview, that conversation with Craig was so money. I don't even think we're going to be able to duplicate it. She's like, James, he's probably going to be better. And I just said, I don't know. He was pretty money. So anyway, here we go. So I have two questions for you. If you can combine two animals together, what animal would you be?
I cannot steal Napoleon Dynamite's Liger, but let's try a cheetah and a bear. So cheetah just because it's the fastest animal alive, and bear just because it's probably the biggest and strongest animal. So I would say that.
So if we combine that, you're either a beta or share.
A beta?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or chair. You could say chair because it's cheetah. So
I actually said share, but you want to say that. That's cool.
Whatever works. I'm going to go with beta.
All right.
I'm going to take a beta.
Sounds solid, man. You look like a beta, by the way. Like a bear and very fast. Actually,
Yeah.
I don't even know if you're really fast.
I'm not.
Okay, good.
Not with my injured knees.
True that. I remember you have one of them. So give us a little bit of background about yourself. Go ahead.
Let's see. I'm not going to go too far back, but I was not raised in California. I was raised kind of on the East Coast. My dad was in the military, went to the Naval Academy in Annapolis.
Mm-hmm.
And so I grew up, was born in Charleston, South Carolina, and then kind of grew up all over the country and world. Lived in Bermuda and Puerto Rico a couple different times. And then my dad kind of retired in Maine. So I kind of spent junior high school, and then I went to college at the University of Maine. That's my sweatshirt.
Nice.
There you go. It's backwards, but it says Maine, or Enam if you're reading it backwards.
It looks good.
And it does. It's a hockey college, big university, about 18,000 students. Yeah. And did not know the Lord at all. Grew up kind of in a non-Christian home. My mom knows the Lord and, loves the Lord and walks with him. And my dad's come to know him, which has been great. But graduated college in 1992, and I was either going to take a job in Boston if I got it, and if I didn't, I was going to come out to California to get warm weather. So obviously the job didn't work out, and I ended up in California 2 weeks after I graduated. And then first really kind of good friend of mine that I met out here was a Christian, and over the next few years, he kind of introduced me to the Lord. And in 1994, accepted the Lord. And then literally 3 days later, God opened the opportunity for me to work at the youth camp that the church owned, Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa. That's up in Green Valley Lake. And kind of the rest is history. I've been there for 25 years doing a bunch of different things. Finished Bible college there while I was working at the camp. Was the assistant director for about 4 years, and then came down to Costa Mesa in 2000 and just been doing pastoral ministry there since.
No, what about your family?
And so married my wife a week after Bible college, met her at the youth camp. She was visiting a friend up there, and we both went to Bible college, happened to be at the same time. Got married a week after we graduated, and then we've been married for 24 years this year. We have 4 girls and 1 boy in that order, and 23 almost down to 11.
All right on. So how has, I mean, we're all going through this world pandemic. How has it affected you? How has it affected your work? How has it affected your sphere? What's around you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like everybody else. It definitely is a huge adjustment, having to kind of stay in shelter other than just the essentials. So from work standpoint, everything is now online. And so via whether that's through emails or phone calls or whatnot, or we do our services online. So that's been a huge adjustment because I'm used to taking appointments, doing our studies. I lead the men's ministry as well. So we have a Tuesday study, and then also our husband's group on Monday nights, and then our Wednesday evening services and Sunday morning services. So it's been a radical change, and it's been a quick adjustment. Obviously, our kids as well are all at home, so that makes it very cozy. And I have two. My oldest daughter graduated college. My second oldest is a sophomore. Then we have a senior in high school, 8th grader, and then a 5th grader. So kind of the whole gamut there. But you make the adjustments. You make lemonade when they give you lemons, and kind of go with it. So for us, it's just been adjusting to that.
So the word, a lot of words. People are fearful right now. They're anxious, confused. Some people could even be experiencing hopelessness. What are some things that you might be able to tell them to kind of get them through this time, kind of get them over the hump?
Yeah. I think obviously one of the biggest things that I think we've been experiencing is just two things. Is fear. Obviously you're like, what's going to happen? This is something that, I think our world has never been through on this level. And so there's that creeping in. Obviously, also just being at home all the time is just with the unsurety of what's going to take place. It's definitely more stressful. So people are more on edge, and that's been a challenge. But I love what, Pastor Brian even said this morning, just through Matthew 6, kind of 25 through 35, is just the idea of where Jesus is instructing them, like, don't worry about what you're going to eat and what you're going to wear, but just seek the kingdom of God and his righteousness. So it's really focusing in on kind of the things that are huge and important, which is number one, your relationship with God. And I think from there on out, that's kind of where everything else flows. But again, I always think of people that don't know the Lord or may not, and that can be a challenge because everything feels so out of control, and which it is. We ultimately know as a Christian that God is in control, but when you see people suffering and whatnot, that kind of stirs your heart in that certain direction as well. And again, the scriptures are very clear. Jesus talked about this in Matthew 24, coming toward the end of days before his second return, that this world's going to be, wars and rumors of wars and pestilences and all these types of things. So you really have to stay focused on your relationship with God. And if you don't, then that's where there's going to be a lack of peace. That's where there's going to be a feeling of things are out of control. And even as a believer, it's going to feel like that. So that's why, the scriptures and Jesus is constantly encouraging people, like, seek him. So, for me, the discipline is reading the word, being in prayer, having that time with our family, and then, doing some things that are just getting your brain out of just watching news. Like, don't watch news constantly. Maybe check in on it once or twice a day, and then try to stay off your phone as much as you can, because that can also drive you crazy. And then, take a walk, get out with your family within reason. Like, obviously you can't go out, if it's in your neighborhood or whatnot, but do things that you can to also bring some normality to it.
Yeah, I think that's great, because that was going to be my next question. What are some practical things that we can be doing? And obviously you've already covered that. Whether you're religious or Christian or, whatever religion you practice, you're that's going to be your bent, and that's what you're going to rely on. And then you also mentioned for those who are not, you've given some good practical tips on exercise and just have routine and, stay away from the news. There's, I know a few people that just watch the news 24/7 and they're wondering why they're depressed. But those are some great tips. So my last question, actually, you know what? I didn't even ask you my second initial question, but I can throw that in right now. What makes you smile? And it can't be a person, and it can't be a pet.
I love quick-witted people. So to me, a word that is, the scripture said a word that's fitly spoken is like apples of gold and bowls of silver. And the whole idea is just that quick-witted word that's just makes you smile. It's dry humor. It's just the right thing. And whether that's, I know for me, there's like specific movie scenes I can see in my mind's eye that kind of bring a smile to my face.
Give me
So
one.
things
Give
like
us
that.
one. Give us one right now.
Well, I mean, well, it's funny because we were just watching The Emperor's New Groove. And there's so many one-liners in that movie, as well as we were watching Nacho Libre as well. So,
of course. Yes. Nacho.
So, yeah, Nacho. Yeah.
Uh,
So just, yeah.
so this is gonna be my actually maybe the second to the last question. What is something that you're grateful for right now at this time in your life? What are you grateful for?
Honestly, for me, it's been just our family. I think, especially with being on lockdown, it's made me realize how much time we don't spend together, even though we live under the same roof. I mean, last 3 days we've had meals all together,
Yeah.
and I look at that as kind of the lemonade in the lemons,
Yeah.
Of just going through this. It's been real sweet. 3 times a day, my son's like, "Hey, can we go to the park?" And there's a little bit more freedom where I can break free for a little bit and go do that. Yeah. So, I mean, I've heard that repeated over and over. It's, the thing that people appreciate most is just being able to kind of be at home and be with their family.
Yeah. So it feels nostalgic in a way, doesn't it? This kind of old school when like we were kids growing up and having dinners around the table with the whole family and spending more time with each other. Man, it shows you like how far we've come in the last 40 or 30 plus years or so. Any last thoughts before we end?
Well, for me, I think I just want to encourage, whoever's going to listen to this, or even you and I, with our husbands group and whatnot, when you're not being able to connect as much, I think these moments in life are in history. I mean, I think in our lifetime, you'll have 2 or 3 moments or 4 or 5 that are critical moments in your life where really what you decide to do it's life-changing. And I think this is one of those moments in our world's history and our nation's history. And I forget who it was, a great theologian once said that God uses human suffering to awaken their need for God. And I think, whether it's, this or a personal tragedy in somebody's life or a critical life experience that somebody's going through, I would just encourage anybody to continue to seek God. And I think the simple thing is the way it was presented to me, having grown up in kind of a religious background as far as, going to church on Easter and Christmas. I always viewed God as Santa Claus with a frying pan. If you're good, you get the goods. If you're not, you get the lump of coal. And that was always my view of God. And so when it was introduced to me about having a relationship with Jesus because of him dying for our sin on the cross 2,000 years ago, to me, it just changed my life, obviously. But it's the idea that the creator of the universe wants to have a personal relationship with each one of us. And that the worst we can go through on this earth is as bad as it'll get, because eternity is coming. And so, people said, you're either going to believe one of 3 things about Jesus. Either he's really who he said he was, he's a lunatic, or he's a liar. And I just encourage people to consider Jesus, because he was a real man. He claimed to be God. He proved himself to be God. He died and rose again the 3rd day. And all the historical evidence shows that. So that is really the only hope, because when this comes down, and whether it's coronavirus or the next virus that comes, or, the nuclear bomb, if it ever goes off, our hope can only be in something that's outside of all of this. And that's God through his son, Jesus. So that's what brings true peace, and just encourage people in that.
Right on. So before we end it here, where can they find your church online? You're talking about services, you're talking about ministries throughout the week. Where can they find you guys?
So our main hub is cccm.com. That's Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa. And then everything's live there. We'll be teaching the Tuesday night men's study there this week. They have a Wednesday night study. There's a ton of resources there as well. And so we just encourage people to kind of look there. And there's a lot of great churches around as well.
Yep.
But that's ours.
So I want to thank you for your time, man, and appreciate your friendship. And you're the first guy up, man. You're the first guy I thought of,
Right.
and I now know it
Sweet.
was the right move. So you actually
Cool.
went above and beyond your first interview, which I didn't think was possible. But you're
Awesome.
a stud, man, and look forward to seeing you in the near future. But I really appreciate it.
All right, you betcha, man. God bless you.
Thank you, man. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.